father, who last summer had passed away, and I felt I wanted to do something special in honor of the community. And for the past summer months, we were thinking, what can I do? Over the last 11 months since he had passed away, we've been having a minyan over here 3 times a day. It's beautiful. Everyone has been coming, trying to help out, to allow us to have the services and to daven with the minyan. But I wanted to do something in the conclusion of the 11 months. What can we do special? And it was really a no-brainer for me to ask Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, also known as Schwartzie, to come out and spend some time with us. It is not quite 11 months yet, but Schwartzie has an extensive travel schedule. And he's actually going to Israel for 2 months, as he does every summer for the last 12 years. And he lectures at the ancient city in northern Israel, at Tzfat, in a beautiful school called Ascent. School, I'm sure he'll tell us more about it. And thousands of young Jewish people travel through that center and have the privilege of coming to the classes that he gives. And so we said, before you go to Israel, can you try to stop off in Arizona just for at least one evening and share with us some of what he will share with us tonight. For some of you, it's the first time here, and we didn't have space to really put up a registration table. So we'll have a little pad here we can pass around. We'll put your name, your address, and email address, so we have it for the records. For those that know that they're not on the email list or on the mailing list. We have beautiful desserts, water, drinks. If anybody would like to take something now, so you can sit down, have something to drink while, or something to nash on while he gives his Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, Schwartzie gives his talk. In addition to being a really interesting individual, Shlomo is actually, or Schwartzie is actually also my uncle. And so he's my father's first brother. No, brother. And so he knows my father quite well. My father's younger days, he's about the same age as my father also. And so it was really a perfect opportunity for me to also learn and to hear of what he has to share with us today. When we first got married, so I took a trip with my wife to California. I went to New York. California was a great place to go. And one of the places we stopped off at was, there's some seats up here, plenty of seats up here. So one of the places we stopped off at was Venice Beach. That's a tourist attraction. How can you not go to Venice Beach? And we're walking on Venice Beach, and lo and behold, I see a familiar face standing behind a table that says Jewish astrology. Schwartzie has a table right down Venice Beach with Jewish astrology. When I was a student, I spent some time in LA, and I was invited to attend Shabbat at Schwartzie's, Shlomo and Olivia's home. He has something that is called Shabbos for 60. Shabbos for 60 strangers. And He has one for couples, one for younger singles, one for older singles. 3 times a month. And it's attended by 60. It's jam-packed every week. The reservation is full. 60, that's the camp. It's a fascinating Shabbos. I had one of the most interesting experiences. We met the most interesting people there. So it's really something to remember if anyone's in LA and you have the opportunity to attend. I'm sure you'll have a very beautiful Shabbos experience there as well. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my dear uncle, Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz, Schwartzie.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here, especially with my nephew. Well, we go back even before the beginning. I was at his bris, remember? I got it. Okay, that's good. That's very kindness of the good Lord. Actually, I can't believe my nephew did such a great job. In the Jerusalem of America, Chandler, Arizona. Give all these Jews. This is how I make this back. Okay, everybody smile pretty. Ready? Okay, thank you. So like Rabbi Mendy said, I came into the family, before I came into the family, I was studying with Mendy's father, Zalman Deitsch. I was 19, Zalman was 18, and we studied in a yeshiva in New Jersey. I was a freshman in college in 1963, and I took a leave of absence, which I'm still on. And I decided, let me see how the other people do it. I heard about, there was prima donna, and but the Kabbalah, I heard about Jewish mysticism and Hasidism, and I'd been to one of the sightseeing stops in Jewish New York, Williamsburg, Crown Heights, one of the ghettos of Brooklyn, and saw all those people, and I thought, wow, I can't believe this. Because I was born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'm from Atlantic City. I won a Miss America contest, remember Atlantic City? So my father was a cantor in the Chelsea Hebrew Congregation at Conservative Temple. And he always said he struck out 3 times. I have 2 older sisters, and then there was me, so 3 strikes and you're out. He never had Yiddish and Nachas. He never had really Jewish parental delight from it. He always said, my 2 daughters are too little, my son is too much. What happens in the best of families, okay. Meanwhile, at his 70th birthday, he passed away when he was 70, but at his 70th birthday, he made a speech and he accepted me for what I am, and it was really, for me, a watershed event, and I'm an only son, born to them in their old age, my parents. My father was a cantor in Vienna before the war, and fled Hitler in 1939, came to Atlantic City. So, Atlantic City was not like Europe, so. Actually, my father said he had this great little anecdote, little limerick, sort of. How do you describe, what's the difference between Jews in America and Jews in Europe? You come over the Atlantic Ocean and everything changes. It's forgetting, and it's just a totally different headspace. It's like in, the juxtaposition is, my father said that in Europe, cities had ghettos where Jews lived. And the main street of the ghetto is called the Judengasse, Jews' streets. And people, if they wanted to gossip or speak Lashon Hara, gossip about people do sometimes, they would see, you see that Jewish woman walking across the Judengasse? She doesn't keep kosher. That's the gossip in Europe. And I became a campus rabbi at UCLA from in the 60s until 1989, about 20 years. And so I had my campus table, and there was, 13 tables there, Kill Economy for Christ, Keep Kosher Kitchens, all kinds of different dope paraphernalia, all kinds of stuff, and the political, religious tables, the free speech area called Brew and Walk at UCLA. And, I'd have 30 students around my table eating cheeseburgers and talking about the kosher laws. Rabbi, why? So I had a great education. I've been living in LA for 37 years. So, but the juxtaposition, the contrast between the gossip in Europe and Jews gossiping in America. So I'm on campus and the kids are around my campus table and they say, hey, you see that girl walking across the campus? She keeps kosher. So it's different. And then I was privileged to take my leave of absence from college, and I wound up in the Chabad Yeshiva in Morristown, New Jersey. And at that yeshiva was Rabbi Mendy's father. He was 18 years old. And I came in the middle of the year. And some people were friendly, some people were not. I mean, there's these and those. But he was very friendly, and my father wrote me a Dear John letter when I left. I took my leave of absence, Unless you become an engineer which has prestige, don't come home. One of those. Dear John, an only son, and I wasn't such a good child growing up, and so we had a lot of we butted heads a lot, and so it was a difficult situation. And basically, he cut me off. So that time it was before all the health things started. And I was like everybody else smoking Marlboro. And everything's okay, but I don't have any money to buy cigarettes. I'm 19 years old, and I was going back and forth from Greenwich Village to Yeshiva, to Brooklyn, to where the Rebbe was, the Hasidim. At least once a month on Shabbat or so, I would go, and to where Crown Heights, where the Deitsch family lives, and many of them. And not only that. Mendy's grandparents, Shalom and Miro. Rabbi Mendy has 2 children named Shalom and Miro. My father-in-law and mother-in-law. And Mendy's father, Zalman, also had a father, Shalom, and Shalom had his parents still alive, called the Zayda Mendel, who Mendel's named after, and his wife, the Baba Hinda. So, I'm from Atlantic City. There was 8,000 Jews in Atlantic City, and only 2 families closed their store on Saturday. From 8,000 Jews. There was 2 kosher butcher shops for 8,000 people, and they weren't busy. Catch my foot?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good. So, that's the kind of place, that's how I grew up. Conservative, that sort of thing. And also I went to this yeshiva, and they taught me a lot of things because my father was from Europe, from the old school. He came over, he was in his 30s or 40s already, and I was born in America, so the generation gap was raging. I'll never forget how they spoke Yiddish when they didn't want me to understand. So that was the code language. So then I was 19, I went to Chabad Yeshiva, and I learned Yiddish. So I came home and said, guess what? I can speak Yiddish. You're kidding. So they started speaking Hungarian. Absolutely. So, like I said, my father was a cantor in this temple called Chelsea Hebrew Congregation. Didn't have a Jewish name. And so when I didn't play hooky, and I said, Dad, I'm sick of not feeling well. He went to the synagogue, and I watched TVs on Saturday morning. I watched the cartoons. But when I didn't do that, so they called my father by nickname because at 70 he was the youngest man in the congregation. They called him Schwartzie. Now it's already many generations, so we just inherited kind of the name. But he was young, as it were, at that time. And I was the only child in that, because everybody was old. And I had a brother-in-law, who just recently passed away, and he said to me, it's over. Get real. Judaism, like you know it, is not happening. It's going to be in a museum with the dinosaurs. Here was the last Jew. His name was Cohen, something like that. It's not happening. So, and he tried to tell me he went out of respect to his father-in-law. He married my sister, but it was a different. It looked bad. There was no people like under 60 in the temple. And forget the younger; they weren't there. So, but every Saturday, basically, I went with my father, and then I got bar mitzvah. So I did what I do every Saturday. The next Saturday after my bar mitzvah, I came home from synagogue with my father. We went to the drawer, put the yarmulke in. We ate Shabbat lunch. My father went to take his nap. I put on my shorts and my t-shirt, got my basketball, lived across the street from the playground, and I went to play basketball. My father says to me, put away the ball. He said it with a melody that I know I'm being punished, okay, I'm busted, put away the ball, okay, put away the ball. And I said, Dad, I don't remember what I did this week. Why am I being punished? What did I do wrong? He said, you're not being punished. I said, if I'm not being punished, why can't I go play basketball? He said, it's Shabbos. I said, it was Shabbos last week. The week before that, what is this? It says, mitzvahs. So you're not allowed to go play basketball on Saturday, on Shabbos? He said, so I said, why? Now, his generation didn't ask that question. My brother-in-law had the answer for every why. Every question of why had the same answer. Why is a crooked letter. My father had a traditional answer to why that Jewish people did from Europe. 2 words in Yiddish. I know a few words. Steht geschrieben. You know what that means? It's written. It's written. Thou shalt not. That was good enough for him, but that's not good enough for me. You talk to me, communicate. I like, we have a brain. One of the sins is you're not allowed to waste. A Yiddish cup is a terrible thing to waste. Talk to me. So that was my father's Jewish education for me, and the way he did it. And it didn't work with me, and all my sisters, nor the whole generation. So that's kind of where I came from. And so then I went to Chabad Yeshiva and met Zalman Deitsch. And these people were fiercely religious. Really devout, very practicing details, macrame on the sides coming out of their, rope ties coming out of their shirt, and everything was. I remember I went to the yeshiva, and I couldn't believe. I know when you go to Hebrew school or a temple, you put on a kippah, okay. So I went to yeshiva and I had a kippah, and I put on my kippah, and then I went to the yeshiva dormitory, and I left the building with my new friend. I'm his roommate. And I took my yarmulke and put it in my pocket, and he says, what are you doing? I said, we're not in temple now. And he said, no, you're supposed to wear a yarmulke. You're supposed to wear your head covered. I said, come on. I thought I'm the new kid on the block. He's trying to josh me, just rag on me a little bit. And I said, I'll tell you what. You keep yours and I'll keep one mine, okay? And he did. So that was how I learned that you're supposed to have a kippah, your head covers. So there was a lot of different kind of cultural revelations. And so Zalman, after a while, he took me, so a lot of times we were in Jersey for the week, and then for Shabbat, we'd go to Crown Heights, Brooklyn, where a lot of the students lived, or their families. But I got this dear job with my father, so I really had no one, and didn't know anyone. I was alone pretty much, and Zalman said, come to, eat with us for Shabbat. You can stay with us. Okay, 669 Crown Street, Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. All right, so I'm going, and I'm going to eat Shabbat there, and then I went Shabbat hopping, and it's people very open and pretty much, but not everybody was so friendly and welcoming and accepting, but the Deitsch family was. Now later I learned, it says in the Ethics of the Fathers, a book of the Torah, Pirkei Avot, "V'hevei mekabel et kol adam b'sever panim yafot." you're supposed to greet everyone with a smiling countenance. And another Mishnah says, now the Mishnah is a book of the Torah, it's the most important book of the Torah right after the Bible. It's called the Mishnah. Another Mishnah says, have a magdim bishlom kol adam. In other words, if you see somebody, and there it says specifically the learning, the deductive reasoning is Jew or Gentile irrelevant. If you see somebody, you should say good morning to them or hello before they say good morning to you. That's a Jewish ethic, irrelevant what religion they are. And some people, people are people. Some people practice that. Some people didn't. It's easier to grow a beard than say hi. Just wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and don't shave. But to say, put yourself out a little bit and be welcoming and smile at somebody, and some people have to pay money to smile. But Hasidim in general, people they're in love with life. I like that right away. That's enjoyable. There's not a lot of room for depressed Hasidim. It's just, sooner or later there's going to be a time at 3 years old, the kid gets his first haircut in. Okay, anytime is a good time. Party! Oh, party! Saturday night. Shabbos, I understand. Saturday night. Shabbos is over. Melava Malkeh. Party! So there's another party Saturday night. Anytime is a good time. These are my kind of people. I like that. And it's all within the context of being very devout. And so that element, in truth, the Hasidic movement, even though it's only 300 years old, and a religion of 4,000 years old, as Johnny come lately, but they had the almost the exclusive one, being happy. And it was very powerful, very important. And Zalman wanted to come to pay our respects and honor at the finishing of the saying of Kaddish for Zalman Deitsch. He was also a happy camper. Short fella, happy camper. And people loved him, he was very popular. And but I went to different places also. I wanted to see how did the Hasidim live in Brooklyn. So I went Shabbos hopping. Every Friday night or I went once in a while. I went back to Zalman's house because he's my classmate or my schoolmate, and there was only 40 students in this yeshiva in New Jersey at that time. Now there's hundreds and hundreds. They moved from Newark to Morristown, and it's a complex of buildings, and it's booming. But when I was there, it was one building in Newark, and there was 32 students, 40 students max. And so I once, after a while, wanted to see how the Hasidim live. So I went Shabbos hopping specifically for that reason. How these kind of Hasidim do. I mean, it's all the same Chabad Hasidim, Lubavitch, but every family had it a little bit differently, did it a little differently. And so I went over to another schoolmate, another guy, I think it was Hershey Lipster. And I said, Hershey, I don't have a place really. I'm kind of homeless for Shabbat because we're in the dormitory in New Jersey, but now we're going in for the weekend to New York. I want to come to your house for Shabbos. I'm inviting myself to you. And he said, you can't come. I said, why can't I go to your house for Shabbat? And he said, because I have sisters. I said, I also have sisters. Is that a problem? He said, no, I have sisters. And the boys and the girls at 19, 18, there's no social dating. The only kind of dating is to get married or not. It's a shidduch, it's a matchmaking. And my father's very devout. He's not going to have boys with his daughters at the same table like that. But Zalman's father, Mendy's grandfather, he had, I guess he got involved in family prayer. He had 3 boys and 3 girls. So he had girls, whatever, and it didn't bother him. bother him, didn't bother me. Eventually I married one of the daughters. That's how I became Rebbe's uncle. So that worked for me. But one of the images I do remember, like I said, I was 19. I'm sitting at this table, this husband and wife, 6 children, a few guests. I'm one of the guests. I'm sitting at this lovely Shabbos table. People are up. They're on. They're ready. We're partying. They're singing beautiful melodies, Hasidic melodies, these heart-wrenching, tearjerker melodies, contemplative, meditative, mystical melodies, very moving. And then they switch from that to a, stomping, thumping, rhythmic beat, like a dance music, and we're singing the food, and everything's wonderful. And I remember sitting, a thought. Sometimes you remember a thought, even if you've never verbalized it, because it happened maybe 3 times. I was sitting there and thinking, I have a bunch of friends that are Jewish, but they're not involved. If they'd be sitting at this table, this Shabbos table, irrelevant of the libraries of wisdom and understanding, they just turn on because this is a great life. This is good stuff. This is really a wonderful way to have a lifestyle. As just a parenthetical aside, one of the largest Reformed temples in Los Angeles is Stephen Weiss. And I guest lectured there many years ago. There was maybe 70 people, and it was for B'nai Mitzvah, people that never had a bar bat mitzvah. There was 70 people. Nate Lamb is the cantor, a friend of mine. Schwartzie gave him the old 45-minute, 15-minute Q&A. These people are getting bar bat mitzvah. Okay. So I do my shtick over there, and I saw, sometimes if you're a people person, you love people. And to be a campus rabbi, for 20 years, that's a lot of rejection. I try to get flyers for Shabbat dinner or something, and the students are walking, carrying 7 books or something. Sorry, I can't read. You get, the students have no respect. I don't know what. But so you read people, you get some vibration, even if you don't speak to them. The fact is, when I was in college, it was 15 cents to get on the subway from the Bronx to Brooklyn. It took an hour and 15 minutes. And then you can go back without paying. So 15 cents round trip. You had 2.5 hours of entertainment. People watching, you can imagine. There's a plug over there, and his drunk is kicking in the windows. And, I went sometimes, I got so good at it, I brought some of my friends. I used to play poker in college, I turned something up. So, this is everybody's of age here, right? So there's no. So anyway, I developed a group. I got good at fun a card draw, and people would invest money with me. So I developed a large continuum of friends. So I said, Thursday night, let's take a subway ride. And just watch the people. And then I'd have my group around me, and I'd say, what do you think about that couple over there? Are they married? Are they dating? Are they exclusive? Are they engaged? Are they having difficulties in their relationship? Notice that when she's talking to him, he's not looking at her. Notice when he responds, she's also looking away, and they're not getting along. So this is fun. I love people. People are just everybody's different and different. God's creatures with souls. It's very powerful. And so I like to read people. I started doing this B'nai Mitzvah lecture in the Temple Stephen Weiss, and I see, like in the front row, one from the left, this woman has it in for me. She doesn't know me. I don't know her. But I see just, I don't know if it's, her second husband who divorced her, she's not happy about it, I don't know what, but I'm gonna get it for sure, as soon as Q&A goes up, and I felt that. And I was on, and Stephen Weiss, one of the biggest temples, gorgeous, amazing temple, it's in Bel Air, one looks to the valley, it's great to the city, views, I mean, it's an amazing temple, millions of dollars. So it's a prestigious 70 people here in Stephen Weiss, and people were plotting, I'm a funny guy, it was happening for me, and I see this woman can't wait for Q&A, she's going to get me. As soon as I finish, and I say, if I have any questions, we have 15 minutes, boom, her hand shoots up like a rocket. And I thought, well, I have two choices. I can not see her and call on people in the back, but I feel that she's about 42 years old, and she's ready to call out, Rabbi, don't see my hand here. I knew I was going to get it sooner or later, so I said, yes. So she gave a very powerful alternate speech, alternative sermon, about, and the end was, and she was a little, somewhat bordering on hostile, belligerent, be polite. I use other words because the synagogue is here. So, the final line, our concluding line was, how can you live your lifestyle in the 20th century? Okay, now, how am I supposed to, I was supposed to respond to her. So I said, listen, I'm a campus rabbi at UCLA. And I've been doing it, for 10 years, whatever. And the students come to me because they have rabbi phobia. Either the rabbi only talked to the fat cats, or they were too little for the rabbi to talk to, but the rabbi never gave them time of day. Their bar boxes are confirmed. They never got any attention, so direct, not even eye contact. Rabbi, I have a question. Okay, in my office, or somebody, or just lost it on one foot. So it was difficult, and you try to break that down because in order for us to communicate, there has to be, one can be a rabbi. Rabbi means that he passed he graduated law school and passed the bar, kind of. He graduated the yeshiva and was ordained, so it means information. Okay, I have some information that you don't have. You have information that I have about a variety of things. And so I have information about Jewish history, the Torah, the Bible, the religion, fine. But a lot of people don't respect that necessarily. And I'm not going to start asking her personal questions, what she uptight about. But I said, I see every 5 days a week, for 5 hours a day, I'm on campus at UCLA. There are 33,000 students here, 9,000 Jewish students. That's why the code name in the trade of outreach rabbis for UCLA has two names. UCLA, JewCLA we call it, or YOSLA. But that's the code name because there's more Jews there. West of Brooklyn is the largest Jewish student population of any campus in America. 9,000 Jewish students. Where do you get 9,000 Jewish students? You dream. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. You can't lose. Had a great time. So I said to the woman, I hear from the students from 18 to 23 years old, let's say, how screwed up their life is and how miserable they are. And that reinforces my lifestyle every day and validates me and my happiness and my decency and just it begins to become a situation where it's difficult to see what's right and what's decent and what's appropriate, what's protocol and what's Jewish, what's the Jewish thing to do. So, we didn't go over too well, but I'm sure she survived. I certainly did. So just this, I remember this, being in the Deitsch house, 669 Crown Street, at a Shabbos table, and seeing this Hasidic family, and they weren't doing anything special. They were just being, just existing, living. It was very moving. never saw that. I remember I was in college. I was taking freshman English. They had to write an essay on Walden's Pond. And I'll never forget, I was at a crossroads. I'm going to the village, I'm going to Hasidic Rebbe in Brooklyn, I'm back and forth, I'm drinking cheap wine, playing my bongos and reciting poetry made up, and no one understands me, you know. And then I go to Brooklyn, the Hasidim are dancing, happy, singing and studying and have mission, purpose, direction, and moving and fulfillment and going back and forth. So I said, okay, I'm not going to go do another 3.5 years in school, because another 3.5 years is going to see the same, like this last 6 months, this semester. So I'm either going to go to the village, drop out over there, or I'm going to go to Crown Heights. So that was my kind of, I figured I could always go to the village, you know, because that's easy, just panhandle money and drink wine. But to go to the Hasidim is going to be more difficult, because you got to go to the school. And the school, the schedule of the school for 19-year-olds is 7:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night. And at 9:30 at night, nobody goes to sleep. They study some more. We learned a lot. So I decided to try again with the program and see if I could make it. I gave myself probation. I gave myself 2-week probation. Well, it's not so simple. It's not just a simple lifestyle. It is, but in addition to that, there's something called a Rebbe, a guru, a perfect master, a realized being, someone who's, it's dynastic. The first Rebbe was Schneer. His son was the Rebbe after him, Schneerson. So anybody who's Schneerson means they're related to Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe is supposed to be a descendant of the Baal Shem Tov, and a miracle worker and a clairvoyant. And I read books about the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, and everything. And I thought, these are like regular people, though. I mean, the Rebbe is amazing and a great scholar, and too much I didn't understand because he spoke in Yiddish and I didn't speak Yiddish that time. But about the wonder workers and miracles of Rebbe's in the past, I read about it and I figured it's one of two things. Either it's not true, or maybe it was 300 years ago a Baal Shem Tov or a Rebbe in a, 150 years ago or so, and they could do that. But there's nobody today, let's say human being on the planet, on Earth, and like in the world, that really can do that kind of thing. I mean, now Kabbalah is popular and everything, but, and anybody ever hear of the Golem?
Yes.
That's like the Jewish Frankenstein, you know? So the chief rabbi of Prague, Czechoslovakia, made a golem out of mud, a real Frankenstein. In the 1920s, there was a movie about it, and in Prague today, there's a statue of the golem. Because this Frankenstein, a legend of a Jewish Frankenstein called Golem, was done by the rabbi of, and I'm going there, the Maral of Prague. And he lived in the 15th century, 16th century, time of the Kabbalists of Tzfat. But I thought this is not happening now. So, but anyway, very quickly, I had a bunch of friends. Like I said, I graduated high school in Baltimore, so we were 11 guys, went to the same college in New York. They called us the Baltimoreans. So when I decided to take my leave of absence at this point in time, and I'm going to go to the yeshiva and leave my friends to continue in college in New York, and I'm going to yeshiva in New Jersey, they said, you know what, one last hurrah. Come with us to Baltimore for midwinter vacations around Christmas time, and then you'll go back. You want your career in the yeshiva, you want to go to the Haredi, to the ultra, how many ultras you need, very Orthodox. I'm not shaking hands with women. This was a difficulty for me. Hands is not a body part to turn me on, but I mean, just the whole idea, just to have that variance. It was around my lifestyle, it was till that time. And I thought, okay, let's see if this is worth maybe modifying my behavior for whatever good they have there. And so I decided to go with them. So we went to Baltimore and partied like animals for about 5 days. And they said, listen, Steve has a car, and there's 5 guys in the car. There's a room for a 6th guy. Come back with us to New York, and then you'll go to Jersey to the yeshiva. And I said, when are you leaving? They said, in 3 days. I said, you know what, I'm having such a good time. If I stay here another 3 days, I'm not going to any yeshiva. I gotta go right now. How about I leave now? So I left. That means that there's only 5 people in that car. What's important about that is because it was being driven by my best friend since I'm 12 years old, Mark Lusman, from Baltimore. And I was at his bar mitzvah, he was at mine, since we were 12 years old. And the car overturned, and it was a terrible accident. And everybody was okay except the driver, my best friend Mark, who was ejected. And now I get a call on a Friday. I was 2 weeks in the yeshiva in New Jersey. And I get a call that Mark is in a hospital on the side of the road between Baltimore and New York. And he's in a coma. And he's on a critical list. So I'm 19. So I call up the hospital. So I asked the nurse about his condition. It's critical. Okay, that's one word. Talk to me. What does that mean? So she hears I'm coming, young person. She says that means it's a 50-50 chance. Either he's going to die in the coma, or he's going to awake from the coma, and then we don't know whether he's going to be functional or non-functional. So I'm devastated. And they tell me then that Saturday is going to be a farbringen, a Hasidic gathering with 1,000 people come, and the Rebbe presides at the dais in this great auditorium. And I should, but the good news is that he says like little snippets, 45-minute talks of Torah, and explains Torah for 45 minutes at a clip. It takes maybe 5 hours or so, and every 45 minutes he stops. They sing for 10 minutes. There's 1,000 people, and everybody, there's wine and cups on the table, and everybody toasts l'chaim. And he says back, l'chaim v'livracha, but it's Saturday, Shabbos, so there's no mic. But he looked for eye contact. This was 1964. And he looked every time they sang for 10 minutes, the person would say l'chaim, l'chaim. He was looking for who's holding up to toast him, to bless the person, to life him, to bless him. Okay. However, he is seated at a elevated dais, and behind him is maybe 30 elders with white beards, scholars, etc. And there's more empty seats over here. Tony, there's double the price if you come in. Okay, no pressure. So, only thing like this one to tell you. So, but after the 3rd talk, then he says a mimer, a piece of Kabbalah, and he takes out of his right side of his jacket a handkerchief surreptitiously that was given Rebbe to Rebbe to Rebbe 9 generations, and he wraps it according to Kabbalah around his right hand. The 3rd or 4th talk, and he nods to one person of these 1,000 people. That person begins his melody. Every one of the 7 Rebbe's had their melody that was sung, that got the Rebbe into the groove to be able to say the mimer, say a piece of mysticism, some new information. Okay? When they sing, right after he says this Kabbalah, it takes another 45 minutes, then there's a line to his left of people, some with a bottle, some with a little cup, shot glass, and they need something. To Israel, I'm blessing for my journey. I have a child who's not well. I need a blessing to get married, to have children, whatever it is. And then you can stand there in this line and tell him what you want to ask him for a blessing, And he says l'chaim, and you go, okay, that's the time you can do it. Not a lot of people, maybe 20 people or something. But when the third or fourth or fifth person told me, memorize what you have to say to him, I thought, is this a cult? I just have a few things I want to say. Okay, his Hebrew name and his mother's Hebrew. Everybody hocked me. Don't forget when he asks for a blessing. It goes according to the Hebrew name of the person, not the last names don't count. Hebrew name, first name, in other words, and the mother's Hebrew name. Shlomo Yitzchak, son of Esther Fega. That's me. Okay. So, okay, that I got, and it makes sense. But they said, what do I remember? My best friend was in a car accident. He's in a coma. His name is Avram Moshe ben Chana, son of Chana Rochel, and he's a blessing. I can do that. Memorize it. Anyway, but after the fifth person, Rabbi So after the fifth person tells me this, okay, I said, okay, I'm going to memorize it. This is not, I'm a stranger here. It's a new scene. Okay, I'll memorize it. But it sounds a little cultish. Okay, well. So I'm about the fourth person in line, in this long line. Now I'm about number 4. And the Rebbe's he's sitting down, and I'm standing in this line. And then something strange began to happen. It was like someone had the remote, the clicker. Mm-hmm. Now there's 1,000 people singing in the audience. That's loud. 1,000 people is loud. And like someone took the clicker and pushed on the volume button down one. So it started to go. Now I'm number 3, and someone pushed the clicker again. Now I'm number 2. Now the volume's going down. And I look at the people, their mouths are moving, they're definitely singing. And then it's on the next one, and someone hits the mute button. What's interesting to me about this is, personally, that my wife, when the first time she spoke to the Rebbe, she had the same thing happen to her. We have her old roommate here from once upon a time in Israel, and the first time my wife Olivia spoke to the Rebbe, that was before I knew her, somebody pushed the mute button, and there was silence, although there was 1,000 people, same thing, and it was silent. Just phenomenal, just being in the presence, an overwhelming presence of the Moses of the generation, somebody that's a mystic, that's that a perfect master, very, very powerful. But I had never experienced this, It was, so now it's silence for me, but not for him. So I go over, and of course I had my dilemma. I want to tell him, ask for a blessing from my best friend who's in a coma. And I didn't know how to approach him. So I didn't want to tap on the shoulder and say, yo, it's my turn, okay? Can I talk to you? I'm intimidated. So I thought maybe I should go around, like bend, here's a long table. I should bend around the table, and or should start talking into his ear without telling him it's my neck. Anyway, I had this funny dilemma, so I compromised, and I went in from the side. Between the table and his ear, I said, my friend Rabbi Moshe ben Chana Rochel, and I started talking, but for him there was no mute button, and he hears 1,000 people singing, so he hears that someone is talking to him, and he turns around, and in perfect Russian and Yiddish, he says, "Ah!" That means what you say in Russian. In every language. I mean, he gave me, but he did it loud because there's a lot of, you could hardly hear it. It's noisy, 1,000 people singing. So he goes, "Ah!" This "ah" erased my mind. I forgot my friend's name. I forgot my name. I forgot what I was doing. And I thought, this is very embarrassing. There's 1,000 people here in front of the Rebbe. I don't know what I'm doing. So I was very jangled, and my drug experience until that time was not like this. And it was very different. And I say, now I realized why I'm supposed to memorize this. Now I got it. So, but it slowly came back to what I'm doing there. and I just started throwing out everything I remember. He's in a coma, my best friend, Rabbi Moshe ben Chana Rochel, I need the Rebbe's blessing. And he looked at me very quizzically. And I thought to myself, you know what? You lied to me. I asked somebody, well, I don't speak Yiddish. The Rebbe speaks 70 languages. Maybe he only speaks 69. I didn't count the languages he speaks. Whenever somebody gave me this, the Rebbe speaks 70 languages. Okay, fine. But meanwhile, I figure he's been in America for decades. He should understand English. But I figured, you know what happened here? I told him, and then he gave me an ah, and then I said it again, and he looks at me funny. So I said, I thought, he doesn't understand English. Not good. I looked behind him, the 30 white bears, they for sure don't understand. So I see myself in my mind's eye saying, yo, anybody understand English out here in the crowd? And, but I wasn't, I didn't know what to do. I was thinking of doing that. So, just as I'm going to try to find somebody to interpret, he says in perfectly grammatical English, with a heavy Russian accent, about whom are you speaking? So the good news is he understands English. The bad news is he doesn't understand me. I just told you what I'm talking about. I just did. Maybe, but, so what should I gave him the whole thing. I didn't say it in order that I memorized, but I gave him everything, gave him the guy's name, his mother's name. I remember till today, Rabbi Moshe ben Chana Rochel. And he doesn't get me. So I didn't know what else to tell him. But everybody hacked me so much. The name, the Hebrew name is important, his Jewish name, the soul name, pipeline of blessing, his mother's name goes through the mother. So I said, Rabbi Moshe ben Chana Rochel. And he looked at me again like he doesn't understand me. And he looked down like he's thinking. And if you've ever got any correspondence in the past from the Rebbe, that has a stationery. On the top left-hand corner above the English Rabbi M.M. Schneerson, yada yada, on top it usually says, typed in the last name and the city. Deitsch, Chandler, Arizona, whatever. Schwartz, Lamed Aleph, L.A. That's the letters I got. So he said about when we were speaking, I was Rabbi Chana Rochel, and he looks at me like something he still doesn't understand. He's looking down, he's thinking, like he's trying to remember something, and he goes, Lustner from Baltimore. The only problem with that is, I never told him that. I thought to myself, that's talent. I don't believe that there's a Baal Shem Tov sitting right there in front of me. It's the first time I spoke to him. I was 19. And I was just blew me away. And I thought to myself, well, I think he accomplished two things here. Gave my friend a blessing. And I, in my mind, was thinking the whole time, I'm here for a 2-week, I'm auditioning the Rebbe for 2 weeks. And if I like it, I'll stay another 2 weeks, and maybe stay. And if not, I'll go where I'm comfortable, playing my bakos in that cafe, or in the village. So, okay, I'm here to stay. I got it. Okay, that was good. That's it. I never left. And that was 2 weeks after I came to the Chabad Yeshiva Society there in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And so I realized this is my place, especially that kind of happiness, really, and sense of accomplishment, meaningful life that so many have here. Some are bigger scholars, less scholars, but there's a certain feeling. I remember that it hit me when, in freshman English, Walden's Pond quote. It was like, men live lives of quiet desperation. Everybody I knew in my family fulfilled that line. Quiet desperation means I'm desperate. It's not going, this is not going, my life is not going the way I really want it to. I don't feel fulfilled, I don't feel X, Y, and Z, my checklist is not, I'm getting older, but I'm not screaming about it, I'm not hysterical, it's living a life of quiet desperation. These people were exuberant, they were happy. And in the year that I was in the yeshiva, I went to the Deitsch family a lot for Shabbat, but I went to a lot of places. And a lot of them were dirt poor. I mean, they didn't have a carpet on the floor, it was just a wood floor, but they should have had a carpet. It wasn't the kind of floor that shouldn't have had a carpet. But the bottom line, the common denominator was these people were happy in my family, although many of them were wealthy, my two sisters, but they were more living the life of quiet desperation. And everybody that I hung out with, the Hasidim, they were happy campers. It was very powerful. Plus they had the prayer and God and spirituality and mysticism, Kabbalah, just it was moving. It was very fulfilling from many, many sides. So that was my introduction, my hello to when I first came to the Deitsch family, that sort of thing. Just to give a little bit of a background about where Zalman Deitsch, Mendy's father, came from. I said his parents were Sholem and Miro. And Sholem's parents, and it was Mendy's father's father, his grandparents were the Zayda Mendel and the Baba Hinda. Mendel Deitsch, Mendy's paternal grandfather, was a chassid like you see in the books, in the magazines. An older man, he was given a blessing by two Rebbes for length of days. I believe it is either late 80s or 90s. He asked the Rebbe, the last Rebbe, the seventh Rebbe of Chabad, that's thank you every year for the blessing of long life, but I think I'm done, I'm tired. And he didn't give him the blessing that year when he passed by for a Happy New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and he passed away that year. But I had seen him, he was a powerful, nice-looking person. And then his wife continued to live for another 10 years. So when I got engaged to her granddaughter, she took me to the Baba Hinda, Mendy's paternal grandmother. And she had already had a stroke. And she was paralyzed, she was in bed, and she was mentally not really there. And she would say things like, during the war, she would bake challah for people who were poor. People were starving in Kharkov in Russia. And she would say, oh, there's a knock at the door. Put away the flour, because the police, it might be the police, and they think that maybe we're doing speculatia. We're doing black marketeering because there's too much flour for a private home. But she had all this flour to bake challah for poor families in Russia. That's the kind of woman she was. And when she lost it and she had a stroke, that's what she remembered. But she had moments of clarity. When Alta brought me, my fiancée, to her grandmother, she says to me, oh, now that you're coming into the family, you're going to live a long life. Because our family got a great blessing from a Rebbe. Because I gave him, also she had a huge pot of soup. And everybody knew, even though it was somewhat dangerous, that if you were hungry, you could go in Kharkov to Hinda Deitsch's house and get a bowl of soup. And for some people, that meant that they were alive. Because there was a hunger, it was a famine. So this was, that was the Baba Hinda. I have a daughter living in Jerusalem with 4 children, married. Her name is Hinda. I have a son that works with me in Los Angeles. His name is Mendel. After the Baba Hinda and Zayda Mendel. Now this Baba Zayda Mendel and Hinda had a son, Sholem. Sholem Shaya. And this Sholem Shaya was the father of Zalman Deitsch. So this Shlomo Deitsch, he was a chassid, but he didn't have a beard. He was from the few chassidim who was a beardless wonder. He was clean shaven, but he was accepted by the community, by the Rebbe. He was pretty close to the Rebbe, by his own son, Zalman. Because sometimes it's the passion of the convert. You come back from the yeshiva and you're pumped up, and anybody who's not doing it exactly like you're doing it is, later for you. You're not a Jew. You're not hardly. And they have this, holier than thou, righteous indignation and stuff, and people are turned off by it, and rightfully so. But most yeshivas, if you have a 14-hour-a-day schedule, and you're pretty devout, and there's all this ecstatic prayer and study and light pouring in, light of the infinite, sometimes you can, especially if you're young, you're a yeshiva student, you can begin to become judgmental. That was another thing I loved about the Chabadniks. They weren't. It's like it says on my logo, it's for conservative, for non-affiliates, and any Jew that moves. That's my logo on my advertising. So that was a nice thing to see how Shlomo Deitsch, his paternal grandfather, was accepted. And however, tragically, Shlomo Deitsch had 6 children and a wife, and 2 weeks after his 51st birthday, he passed away and left a wife and 6 orphans. I was married less than a year. And Zalman, we come here to Zalman Judah, Ben Shalom Shaya. So he was 19 years old at the time. Obviously, life changed. They had a yechidus with the Rebbe. Now, once upon a time, in former good days, you could have a one-on-one audience with the Rebbe. Now, our family would go into the Rebbe, and especially after a tragedy like that. And so here's the oldest son is 19, and one daughter is married, the other 5 children are not married, 4 children are not married, one is engaged, and so the Baba Miro